Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in to the first of many episodes for our show, Real Talk, Real Sports. This is my co-host and brother, Michael Sanchez, and I'm your host, Anthony Sanchez. How's everybody doing out there? Hope you're ready to enjoy some real talk and real sports. Today we're going to get started. We're talking about the general manager hiring of the Miami Dolphins. What do you think about that hiring today?
Man, I'm so glad we're finally over this drought. Dolphins finally find themselves a GM, and Dennis Hickey, Ireland, is finally out the door.
Well, it seems like the general manager took a little while. A lot of people went ahead and decided to not come here after being offered many of the position. Now, you think that's anything indicative to the organization, to Stephen Ross, to the what's going on with the Miami Dolphins? And do you think this is a good hiring?
I think this is going to be a great hiring. I mean, he had very notable players that he was responsible for. We definitely needed the change over here in Miami. Jeff Ireland definitely didn't show up for it. Last year promised us a lot of stuff, made it seem like he was going to help us to do things with Stephen Ross's money, and letting go of a player like Carlos Dansby just shows for his unaccomplishments.
Well, we're going to get into a little bit about Dennis Hickey here. Not many people, not many Miami fans knew that that's who we were going after. It seemed like who was on the radar was Ray Farmer. Ray Farmer was not the choice. Then we had, I think last night as reports say, we had Nick Caserio from the New England Patriots here. And we kept him overnight, but he seems to turn down the offer as well. Starting to get a little worried about what was going on behind the scenes. We have many general managers or potential general managers deciding not to stay with us. Dennis Hickey seems to be somebody who has committed to come to the Dolphins. He spent the last 3 seasons with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So let's see if he can bring some of that enthusiasm, that passion that he showed, and some of that talent evaluation. What it seems that's what we really need here is a talent evaluator. He started off as a scout with the Tampa Bay Bucks. He played a major role in acquisition of players like Deshaun Goldson, Darrelle Revis, and also for bringing a good draft plan. He brought in Jonathan Back, the cornerback. He brought in Doug Martin at running back, and he also brought in Adrian Claiborne, a top first-round pick. For developing players, he seems like he has a good knowledge of where he's going. He seems to want to better the team. So the only thing we can hope for is that the Dolphins give him the opportunity. Do you think this is something he can thrive in?
I agree with you, man. It's great. Jeff Ireland definitely didn't succeed in the drafting. He decided to go ahead and draft somebody like a Jonathan Martin. We all saw what he did in our locker room. Could have easily taken a free agent player, and he trusted Jonathan Martin was going to be the tough guy of the line, and we really saw what that did to us.
Yeah, no, it didn't work out very well there. The reports were that Stephen Ross was blown away by Dennis Hickey, but then again, we had like 3 others that were offered the position, so I'm assuming he blew them away too.
Well, definitely the Dolphins were excited to get anything they can from the New England Patriots. Who wouldn't want something from the New England Patriots? They are a very successful franchise, and anything that they put out into any other organization tends to succeed.
Well, in closing, basically, we want to just go ahead and, leave off the Dennis Hickey hiring as a, inauguration today. We welcome him with open arms here in Miami. And Dennis Hickey, if you're listening and you're out there, congratulations for the position. Thanks for coming to the Miami Dolphins. Hopefully you do show the passion and continue the development and the talent evaluation that you've shown that you do have. And we welcome you. And we're glad to have you on board.
So did you get a chance to watch Senior Bowl yesterday?
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, the Senior Bowl was quite intriguing. Do you know the main what's the main purpose for the Senior Bowl?
Well, of course. This is definitely a place where people get to showcase their talents, impress all those scouts out there. Anybody who's having a little doubt about something in some aspect of their game, it's a great game to go ahead and...
in these drills and in these practices, and especially with the game itself, there's so much on the line for some of these players that are not even known. A lot of times this is a big way for them to bolster their draft stock. And leading up to the combine, I think is February 22nd. So from here to there, some of these guys who would have never been talked about are going to be talked about. Anybody in your radar that you saw that had a good game?
Nowadays you have a lot of these tight end fullback hybrids coming out. They're becoming the popular picks to teams. You have, you had one in Chris Cooley with Washington. You got one here in Miami. Great play, Charles Clay. And the guy that I'm talking about is from Stanford. He's Ryan Hewitt, 6'4", 246. Decent speed, running a 4.7. Not bad. Can definitely, got that secondary speed to get away from the linebackers. Not great once he gets past the third level, but showed a great hands and great run blocker. Needs to work on his pass blocking a little bit.
Yeah, I saw him a little bit out there. He definitely looked good. He was getting his name called out a lot. He did show up. Definitely has good hands. He made a few catches out there. Definitely can run block. I saw him open a few holes up. So that's a very good pick that I saw there. Now, as far as for me, I hate to be the one that gives out the negative, but there was from the North roster, there was Taj Boyd from Clemson, quarterback, standing at 6'3", 222, had a monster game at the Orange Bowl for Ohio State. But again, I don't want to be negative, but I hate to say that Taj Boyd did not live up to standards at the Senior Bowl. He looked very, very questionable under center. They run a lot of that spread option in Clemson, so maybe that was a weakness that showed up, for him. Again, he did not throw a touchdown in that game. He had one interception. He was the positives I will give. He's very mobile, has a good arm, but consistently not accurate.
That's very big in the league. You need to have accuracy in this league.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Again, Taj Boyd, I think he let a lot of people down. I think his stock did not, this game did not help his stock. It seems like after this game, I would not be surprised if his stock drops a little bit. Anybody there maybe that you didn't like?
I'm going to have to say Logan Thomas is another one. He was big on everybody's radar, the big guy coming out of Virginia Tech, ACC, very competitive conference, standing at 6'5", 250. You'd think that this guy, after a senior season of 2,900 yards, 16 touchdowns, was going to come into this game and impress people. And he was a big letdown, very inaccurate, had bad mechanics. You'd think that he'd sharpen this up by his senior year. Well, let's see if maybe he can impress some people at the combine statistically with numbers. Nowadays that's very popular.
Right. No, and believe me, I'm on board with you a little bit with that because Logan Thomas, he really reminds me a lot of Josh Freeman. And we all know what's going on with Josh Freeman. 6'5", also 250 something, almost 260 when he allowed himself to gain weight. Same thing, strong arm, can move, but does not know how to read a defense. Doesn't seem like he's into the game the way he should be.
I agree with you. Look at Jamarcus Russell, number 1 overall pick. The guy can throw a bomb from his knees. Now he's sitting on his knees hoping to get a job.
Oh, that's not a good one there to compare the poor guy to. I mean, Jamarcus Russell did seems like he took the NFL and handcuffed them and took their money. But let's see.
But I will tell you one thing. One guy that really looked good for me was Derek Carr, man. And this guy came in there and he lit it up. A lot of people have been talking about him from Fresno State. I mean, not a great conference to play in, but hey, if you can throw 50 touchdowns and 8 interceptions only, you're doing something good. This guy threw for 5,000 plus yards. Little undersized at 6'2", 215, but maybe the NFL can bulk him up a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Derek Carr, I mean, hopefully people do not compare him to his brother David Carr. Unfortunately, David Carr did not have the NFL career that he wanted or he should have had coming out of college.
Yeah, guy had big expectations.
That happens. But, Derek Carr did show a lot of poise out there in the pocket yesterday. He did move around well. He made up his mind quick.
Yeah, the guy threw for 2 touchdowns. Great arm. The guy makes quick decisions. Very good. I like this guy.
Yeah, no, let me see. A surprise player that I also saw. I'm going to have to go with the running back out of Coastal Carolina. He was playing for the South team. He's about a good 6 feet, 210. So, he has good size on him. Compact, runs hard, quick, elusive, powerful. Again, he's out of Coastal Carolina. The questions are going to come. How good was the competition? But at running back, if you have the vision, you're elusive, you're powerful, and you can hold on to that football, you're always going to have a chance in the NFL.
I agree. And one guy that I was looking at, I'm a defensive type of guy. I love defense. And one guy that actually reminds me of one of our very own from here from Miami. A lot of remember him, Zach Thomas. This guy led the league almost in tackles consistently. This guy here, Zach Thomas, 5'11", 242 pounds. Listen to this one. Chris Borland, 5'11", 245 pounds, out of Wisconsin. Last season, 102 tackles, 4 sacks, and a forced fumble. I mean, he's not a bad guy to be comparing him to, and I got high expectations about him when he gets into this league.
I have to tend to agree with you. I mean, that is a great comparison. Zach Thomas and Chris Borland, I mean, they're right around there with the same height, same weight. They're tackling machines. They're tenacious. Undersized. I'm pretty sure Chris Borland's going to have a lot of questions about him coming in just because of his size. But again, like you said, if anybody wants to check his heart and what he does on the field, they need to go talk to somebody like Zach Thomas, who had a great career being undersized.
Definitely. I mean, the guy is monstrous, attacking gaps. He knows how to read quarterbacks. And again, like I said, it reminds me of Zach Thomas. And that's not a bad guy to be compared to. Guy had an amazing career. Unfortunately, couldn't get that one Super Bowl that we all would like to get.
Oh, yeah. We know Dan Marino's out there thinking the same thing. But hey, there's plenty of good players out there that, you know, unfortunately that happens to. But all we can do is wish Chris Borland luck and continue to strive hard and good work. And if he is lucky enough, he can at least come halfway to the career that Zach Thomas had.
I'm going to have to agree with you.
The biggest topic of this upcoming week, we got Super Bowl week. Now, we got two teams that are total opposites. We got Seattle with the 12th man, and we got Denver with Peyton Manning. What's your take on this game?
Well, like I said earlier, I'm a defensive guy, and you're right. This is the biggest game of them all. I actually consider Super Bowl Sunday a holiday, and this is who I got taking it right there. You see that? That's defensive unity, and that's what will win this game at the end.
That picture kind of looks like the Legion of Boom there, LOB, as Richard Sherman would say. Well, so you got Seattle. I think I'm gonna go with Peyton Manning, no Sean Moreno in that offense. And that would be right here. This is what all the Seattle defense is going to see. No Sean Moreno running right up the middle. But honestly, what we really have to talk about is the weather that's going to be hampering this Super Bowl. For all of you out there that are from Miami or any warm weather area, you can feel our pain. But they're having a Super Bowl in New York where it could potentially be one of the coldest Super Bowls in Super Bowl history.
Oh, definitely. That's what it's going to be. They're already saying temperatures are going to be somewhere between 36 degrees. You have showers of snow. I mean, what type of temperatures and weather is this to be playing in? This is a game where you have players to be displaying their best of best talent. Why not let them play on an even playing field? You know, Hawaii is a great place. They play the Pro Bowl there. Why not do the Super Bowl there? You know, Miami. You know, they say they need some upgrades. Okay, go back to Dallas, Arizona. These are great places. Play in a dome.
California.
I mean, you've got other places, and they decide to go to New York where the weather is going to factor in on the game. And bringing up a great point for me is that weather. I mean, Peyton Manning, they rely on his arm. His arm is what gives them that edge amongst other teams. I don't know how Peyton Manning is going to be doing it in that weather when it's snowing against him. Big bro is going to have to be talking to him through that mic. Little bro, sorry.
Oh, Eli right now is actually talking with Peyton Manning, trying to give him little tidbits. I don't know how many tidbits he can give him. He didn't have the best season of his life, but I mean, I understand he's probably giving him little tidbits on how to handle the wind, the way the swirls down there in that stadium.
He's a two-time Super Bowl champion. I think he can learn something from him.
Yeah. I mean, Peyton has a lot to handle. I mean, he does have, you know, he has this weather going against him where he's had problems in Foxborough. He's had problems in cold weather areas. But, I mean, this year he seems like he's on a mission. It seems like they've shortened up the game for him. He's hitting Decker. He's hitting Demaryius Thomas. He's hitting Wes Welker. He's hitting Julius Thomas. He's hitting Noshawn Moreno out of the backfield. I mean, he has a load of weapons to disperse the ball to. The key is how are they going to attack Seattle if the weather's going to be that bad. I mean, what I'm looking at is I can see Denver going to a short passing game, hitting Welker for crossing routes, hitting Decker, maybe, you know, once in a while taking a shot with Demaryius Thomas downfield. But I think it's going to be a short game. I think watch Julius Thomas, watch Noshawn Moreno definitely getting the ball out of the backfield a lot more than he usually would. I don't know.
I agree with you. That's definitely what they're gonna have to stick to. There's not gonna be much long ball being thrown in this game. I mean, if we saw Phillip Rivers out there, you know he doesn't care. He'll sling the ball anywhere.
That's true.
But Peyton Manning's a very smart quarterback, and he's one of those that sticks to his guns. He's not going to go ahead and fix something that's not broken. You know, he's been doing it all season long with the crossing routes, the out routes. You know, hitting Welker, hitting Decker, opening up the playing field for Demaryius Thomas. I agree with you there, but that Seattle defense is the best in the game. They have the league leading in holding teams under 20 points.
Well, it's good. That's a great point you bring up. So now you bring up the defense. So what in that defense that you see that can give the Broncos some problems?
Well, I mean, Richard Sherman's a problem in himself. I mean, this guy is one who can be very disruptive. He can get in people's heads. He is the best corner in the league. You know, I know a lot of people were talking about him the other day, and we're probably going to get into that later. And I'm going to have to agree. If you are being thrown to the least and have the most interceptions, you are the best. I mean, what else is there to say about this guy? He has shut down people, and he made an exclamation point when he stopped Crabtree and took his team to the next level.
Well, I mean, I definitely see what you're saying with Richard Sherman, but don't forget, there's Earl Thomas.
You have Earl Thomas. You're right. You have Chancellor. You're right. This is a great defense all around. They don't have to do much blitzing. If they do decide to blitz in this game, that can be a headache for Peyton Manning because it's going to let the corners know and the secondary know there's a short game, and it's going to let them blitz and get in his head. It's going to be a very tough game for Peyton Manning, that's for sure. And, you know, Russell Wilson's another guy that this guy has 3 losses in his career. One at home only. I know this time they're not playing at home, but he doesn't have to worry about opposites or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I definitely was going to bring up that point. I think that the X factor for Seattle, believe it or not, will be Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is definitely not getting the press. You know, they're basically saying that he's just managing the games well. They've been talking about his struggles the last few games of the season, going into the playoffs. Even in the playoffs, like he hasn't even thrown for 300 yards. But he's being efficient, and he is making the plays when he needs to make them. At the end of the day, that is what counts. You can have a quarterback throw for 300 or more yards, but if he ends up with an L at the end of that game, it was all for naught.
And the good thing about Russell Wilson, you know, he's not known for turning the ball over, and he's got great weapons himself. You know, Percy Harvin's going to be coming back, and that can be a huge X factor in this game. And that's who I'm going to have to say it's going to be. You know, he's going to be drawing a lot of attention. He's going to take away from the defense, opening up lanes for Marshawn Lynch. And definitely Russell Wilson can do damage with his legs. And we know he doesn't take hits. Very smart quarterback. Only second year in the league, and he's playing like a veteran.
Oh, he's very mature for his age, and definitely, I mean, he has a background where he played football at NC State, and then from NC State he got drafted to play professional baseball. I mean, he was actually drafted to play in the majors in baseball. Then he came back after was gone for a full year out of football, went to Wisconsin and takes Wisconsin to the Rose Bowl. I mean, Russell Wilson is no joke. I mean, a lot of people wanted to talk about his height during the draft and dismiss him. And all he's done is prove his doubters wrong. So,
that's right.
So I definitely understand that. But now I'm going to look at it from the point of the Broncos. If I'm going to pick an X factor for the Broncos, I'm going to put it all on the Denver Bronco defense. Why do I say that? Well, because Seattle's bringing to the table Marshawn Lynch. We know that Denver has had their struggles, especially during the season, stopping the run. A guy like Marshawn Lynch, when he hits beast mode, you know, if there's nobody that's going to tackle him and put 2 hands around him, he's going to run right through them. So I challenge the Denver defense. That's out to you, Denver Broncos, John Fox. I challenge your defense to step up and stop Marshawn Lynch. Do not let him hit beast mode. If he does, you will have a long Super Bowl. Again, I do not want to see Peyton Manning out there trying to win you the game with the bad weather, because if it comes down to Peyton Manning having to win that game with that weather, I see it going in Seattle's favor, to be honest with you. I'm picking Denver, and I'm not going to back away from my pick. But the X factor has to be the Broncos defense.
And I agree with you. I mean, we saw it in the New England game. You know, the Broncos had to stop LeGarrette Blount. We saw what LeGarrette Blount did in the game prior to that. He went for 200 plus yards. The Broncos go ahead and hold him to under 60 yards, and they won the football game. They stopped Tom Brady and LeGarrette Blount, which was supposed to be their X factor. So if they can put a pause to Marshawn Lynch, it will put a lot of pressure on Russell Wilson. And we know that Marshawn Lynch is what gives Russell Wilson that calm, relax, sit in the pocket, and not have to do too much, win his game with an 8 and 13 ratio, maybe throwing maybe 10 times, throwing 16, completing 10 passes. That's what we're used to seeing Russell Wilson do. If Marshawn tends to not do much and Russell has to throw 20 plus times, then it can get a little challenging for him because that's not normally what he does.
Yeah, I mean, again, the weather is unfortunately going to play a big part in this game, and like you said earlier, we wish, especially as being down here in South Florida, we wish that the Super Bowl was played on an even field where both teams can show their strength. That defense versus this offense, which is what it should be, Roger Goodell, but it's not. So unfortunately, we have to deal with the weather. I don't know what the decision came down for you making that decision to take the Super Bowl up north, but hopefully after this year you learn your lesson and you see that the Super Bowl needs to be played in an area where both teams can show their strength. Right now, we don't know if it's going to be both teams being able to provide the best game of their life. We can only hope that it turns out to be an okay Super Bowl, that both teams challenge each other. But at this rate, the way everything is showing that the weather is going to be, I see it's going to be a very, very unfortunate Super Bowl due to the weather.
Yeah, but it's going to be one of those ground and pound games. Unfortunately, we're not going to see the best of everybody. And that's all we can hope for is a great Super Bowl. I mean, we got two of the best teams going at it. The 1-1. We have not seen this in a very long time. We have had a lot of underdogs coming in from the wild card. A lot of 4-seeded teams step in and 5-seeded teams. But we have a 1-1, and they're playing on the worst field possible. I mean, they might as well have played in London.
That is a great point. I have to agree with you. It's been a long time since we had two number one teams make it to the Super Bowl. And now that they have a shot to find out who is the best number one, you can almost put an asterisk next to it due to the weather. Because both teams at the end of that game can say that if things were this way or things were that way. I mean, it is what it is, and they have to deal with what's in front of them.
And that's what they work hard for, and that's why they're professional athletes and get paid the big bucks.
Hey, I hear you. So in saying all that, because we both made good points for both sides, you say you're taking Seattle. So what's your prediction for this game?
I'm going to say it's going to be a very low-scoring game. I'm keeping it at 19-15 Seahawks.
Woo! That is a low-scoring game. I'm also going to go, considering what Denver has done this year on offense, I'm going to go with a low-scoring game as well. I got Denver coming out on top, 23-17.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I think we should definitely go ahead and touch on this Richard Sherman since we were talking about this Super Bowl. For everybody out there talking about Richard Sherman, calling him a thug, calling him a hoodlum, I mean, you're just stereotyping the guy for being from Compton. I mean, this guy is a salutatorian in his high school, meaning he had the second highest grade point average in his class. I mean, you're talking about 2,000 plus students, and he has the second highest GPA. And he was doing something right in those books.
And not only that, you're talking about Stanford. We're not talking about a regular university out there. We're not talking about, a community college. We are talking about the University of Stanford.
Andrew Luck, John Elway.
And you know what's funny? You made a great point. You just threw the name Andrew Luck. He's out there from Stanford. At any moment, have you ever heard anybody call Andrew Luck a thug?
No, I mean, this is competitive football. This is what we're out on the field to do. Because he called another player sorry. I mean, this happens a game of emotions. This is what they do on the playing field. That he came out and said it nationally. I mean, I give him respect for that. I actually do it, not backing away from it.
But that's where everybody has this misconception that if he just went out looking for Aaron Andrews to say what he needed to say. And at no point did he do that. First of all, he had got stopped 2 or 3 times before he got to Aaron Andrews. And if you see the reports, every time he said the same thing. So why is it a big deal when he got to Aaron Andrews and not to the other 3 reporters? I mean, it makes you kind of wonder, was it because it was only, because he's an African American, and he was speaking to a Caucasian reporter who happened to be a female? I don't know. But he got caught on the sidelines yelling it to his teammates too. He called Michael Crabtree sorry, and then why would they even throw his way?
A mediocre receiver.
He was mic'd up, so it wasn't like it was a surprise. The NFL knew he was mic'd up. So it kind of makes you wonder where the news and the media was going with this to blow it up the way that they did. Listen, Richard Sherman is a professional football player, but not first. First, he is a student that went to Stanford, had a 3.9 GPA. Not only that, if you listen to the young man's backstory, he shouldn't even be at Stanford. He shouldn't even be in the pros for that matter if you're going to stereotype the guy. I mean, came, like you said, from Compton, California, where you know it's full of gangs, full of poverty, full of people who easily can make an excuse and say, this is what I see every day, and this is what I'm going to do. Instead, he's making a difference out there, not only playing football, providing a life for himself. I mean, if you want to add anything else, by all means. I mean, I just think that he's getting a raw deal out there from some of these media members who just want a story for the Super Bowl.
I agree with you. I mean, in the past, we've had plenty of other people, hit the news and they let it go immediately. Our very own great Dan Marino hit storylines and was taken out immediately. I mean, what is the difference? Because of his appearance? I mean, the guy is a great person. He's a humanitarian. He gives out to the children everywhere. He appreciates everything he has worked hard for. He worked for it, yet he appreciates everyone else and gives back. This is something he does not have to do. He busted his own tail off. Nobody helped him. This came from him. For somebody to come and try to take certain things away from him. He did apologize for the one thing that I agree he should have apologized for, which was taking away the attention from the team and making it a self issue when they asked him a team question and he then turned it into I did it. Yes, Richard Sherman, you have been doing it for a long time and shutting down receivers left and right. Like I said earlier, you have been thrown to the least in the league, yet you have the most interceptions. You also have 20 interceptions in 3 seasons. That is also an NFL record. But that was wrong. You definitely have to appreciate your team because without all those other guys, you would not be in the position you're in to winning that Super Bowl.
But again, I'm gonna defend a little bit more Richard Sherman here in this aspect. I don't think he was purposely trying to take the attention away from the team. I think what happened was, like anybody, we know what kind of game this is. This is an emotional game full of passion.
You're right.
Full of physicalness. Taunting back and forth. We only know what was going on between Crabtree and Sherman during that game. We know this backstory supposedly coming from Richard Sherman that there was issues before this game.
You're right.
And he was stopped right after the play. So he said his emotions are running through the roof. He just made the play to save the game.
You're right. I agree.
So I also think that maybe the NFL should look at backing off from interviewing some of these guys right after a game if they don't want these incidents to happen.
That's a very good point there. I agree with you there.
I mean, if you can't play both sides. The NFL cannot say, "Oh, we want good ratings," and then say, "Oh, but we need you to tone it down." Well, if you want that to happen, then Roger Goodell, just like you're mandating everything else, you need to mandate media to wait till these guys get in the locker room and can speak to you. You're going to make them speak to you, speak to them anyway after the game. So they already have an obligation with the media after the game. So why do you, if you don't want to really hear what that player has to say after a play like that, don't interview the guy. Because you're not going to like what you hear. You're going to find out what kind of sport this really is. A sport full of adrenaline, full of passion, full of heart, and full of hard work. Remember, these guys have been training all this time to get to a game like that that's minutes, seconds away from a Super Bowl.
You're right. I agree with you. But like we were saying, he is a very well-educated man, and he should have taken into consideration the question. It was a team question. That is the only thing I'm saying. He could have followed up with everything else he said. But answer that question first. Get it out the way. Say, we did it. Say your team did it, and then add on Crabtree sucks or whatever you want to say, because you deserve to say that because of the way you play.
Yeah, my last point on that is, look, I agree with you with that assessment at the end of your argument there, and it's very true. I mean, he did have a point where he could have, especially that he was asked the question 3 times before, he did say the same rant. I mean, he could have backed off a little bit, but I do give him credit for what he did do. At no point did he apologize to Michael Crabtree because he had nothing to be sorry to Michael Crabtree
about.
There's
no need to apologize to Crabtree. There's no apologies for Crabtree.
But good. He did show big on him to come back the next day, even though he was getting all this flack for what he said. and he came out and he apologized, but he only apologized for what he did on camera. He didn't apologize for what was said because he didn't have to. He didn't say anything wrong. Me personally, I don't disagree. I think that as a cornerback, you're in a position where you're left on an island most of the time, one-on-one, especially when you have the talent that Richard Sherman does. And you have to have that confidence in you that I am the best, that you cannot beat me. He has to have that mentality that even though he gets beat 3 times in a row, that 4th time he's not getting beat. Why? Because he is the best.
That's right.
Doesn't matter. That's Deion Sanders had that train of thought. Darrelle Revis has that train of thought, as we all saw after what happened. Darrelle Revis made a comment after what Richard Sherman said, and he came back out and said, I am the best corner in football.
Yeah.
But you know why he's saying that? Because he believes it. And that's what the best corners in the NFL do. Any player in the NFL, for that matter, should feel that way. If you're on an NFL field and you're a starter and you're a professional, you should feel you're the best at that position.
I agree. I think the media is just trying to get their hands on Richard Sherman and make a big deal, as big as they can. He's a guy that's going to go right into the Super Bowl. Perfect target for them. They attacked him. I mean, look at Kellen Winslow. You got a Canes jersey. Pretty sure you guys heard about it. Get caught masturbating in a parking lot. What were you doing? Practicing your aiming?
Oh, God.
Come on. It looks like those Canes guys are famous for hitting the news. We all remember a few years ago, Najee Davenport was in somebody's closet pooping.
Hey, all I gotta say is, as you can see, I have the hat, I have the jersey. It's all about the U. That's all right. We have moments like every player does. I mean, Kellen Winslow, all I can say is you're nothing like your father. All right, well, and again, Richard Sherman, congratulations to making the Pro Bowl. Congratulations to going to the Super Bowl. And, stick to whatever it is that you're doing. You've done everything well to this point. You've come from the streets. You've gone to college. You've gone to a major university in Stanford, and you've made something in your life, and you're still doing your best to continue to make something of your life and help others the way that you've come up, and show them that there's other ways to grow up other than what you've seen in the streets. Again, Richard Sherman, my salute to you. And again, good luck in the Super Bowl, and take care. Now we're going to move on to the Pro Bowl, which airs tonight on January 26th, 7:30 p.m. on NBC. What are your thoughts on the Pro Bowl, and who do you like?
They switched it up this year on us a little bit. I think it was a great thing that they did that. For the past years, we've had people complaining that, the Pro Bowl has become a joke. You had a lot of people saying they should have turned it into a flag football game. But I like what they're doing here. The 2 captains and Deion Sanders and Jerry Rice mixing it up, turning it a Pro Bowl draft. It was great. It was exciting to watch. And to be honest with you, I was very happy to see Sanders. I like his team, very strong. Like anybody would have guessed, he stuck to his guns, and a very strong defense. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting what they pulled off this year. I mean, it almost takes you to a video game, like in Madden, and you could do a fantasy draft. This is basically what it is. It's a fantasy draft. It's something where you're not locked in now for one conference and maybe the other conference, and maybe they have the best receivers over there and they got the best running backs over here, and it almost seems unbalanced. I mean, I think both teams, Deion Sanders and Jerry Rice, were 2 interesting captains. They battled a lot each other during the season, and they definitely talked a lot of smack to each other during their seasons.
It was great watching those guys in their prime.
But I will say this: Jerry Rice came out on top more often than not, and that's what I think. I'm liking Jerry Rice's team. If we take a little bit, we give a little overview over the teams. Let's see. With Team Rice, I see they got at quarterback Drew Brees from the Saints, Phillip Rivers from the Chargers, and Alex Smith from the Chiefs. Those are pretty 3 tough quarterbacks. What do you think? What does Team Sanders have to offer?
Well, Sanders is coming at them with a nice young group. I see you got some veterans over there, some guys that took their teams to places that they weren't before. Sanders has got Cam Newton, Nick Foles, and Andrew Luck as their captain. We've all seen what Cam Newton can do with his feet. This is a game where he's not going to have to worry about getting hit, so he can probably do something intriguing and fun for the fans out there. Because it seems like that's what they're trying to do, make this a little more fun and entertaining for the fans.
Now, out of those three quarterbacks, who are you looking the most to see?
I'm a Andrew Luck guy. I'm a fan of this guy. This guy has come into this league and taken it by storm since he came in. And I think with the all-star receivers that he's gonna have in Antonio Brown, Dez Bryant, AJ Green, and long ball Deshaun Jackson, I mean, Andrew Luck is gonna have some fun. This is gonna be play yard football for him.
Well, I mean, now you bring up the receivers. Well, let's see. Well, Team Rice has Larry Fitzgerald, Josh Gordon, Alshon Jeffrey, and Brandon Marshall. Now, I'm a little partial to Alshon Jeffrey because as a Dolphin fan, unfortunately, I was one of the main guys pulling for Alshon Jeffrey to be drafted by us. We did not. But as you can see, as Dolphin fans, I'm pretty sure we're looking back and hurting a little bit because Alshon Jeffrey had a monster year and made the Pro Bowl along with his teammate Brandon Marshall, another ex-Dolphin as well.
Great points you got there. I mean, that is a great receiving core, and you're right. I might have to give you the edge. Those guys, that's a great.
It definitely looks like it's going to be speed versus physicalness in the receiver part of it.
That's what it's looking like. You got about 4 receivers over there, over 6'3", making it very difficult for these corners over here to jump up there and grab that ball.
Now, let's go for the guys who run the rock. I mean, who does Team Sanders have at running back?
I mean, Team Sanders, I think they definitely took it here. They've got the league-leading rusher in Jamal Charles. They've got the rookie of the year in Eddie Lacy and Alfred Morris. I mean, I think that's a great trio of backs to have in this Pro Bowl.
Yeah, you got 3 strong ones there. I mean, Team Rice, looks like they went a little finesse here with their running backs. They went Matt Forte from the Bears, LaShawn McCoy from the Eagles, and DeMarco Murray from the Cowboys. You know, there's a lot of speed in that backfield, very shifty. You know, so it looks like you have the rushing leaders pretty much, or at least strong rushing leaders, and I have pretty much, you know, the speedsters in the backfield.
Now, I know Dion would have loved to have taken Richard Sherman, but as you were mentioning earlier, there's another guy who calls himself the best in the league, and Dion's got him. That's Darrelle Revis. Have you seen this corner crew that Dion brought? We should have expected this from him. He's got Darrelle Revis, the second best corner in the league. Brent Grimes, who stands short to nobody. The guy is a tackling machine. He's almost, can't say shutdown corner, but he is an excellent corner. Can play amongst the best of the best at 5'10". And Patrick Peterson, I mean, this guy is he's a highlight tape waiting to happen. The guy can pick it, take it to the house. He runs kicks backs. The guy is great. And Tim Jennings, I mean, like I said, you got 4 great corners. You should have expected this coming from Dion.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I definitely see that Dion lived up to what he does best and his craft because, I mean, not to say, hey, they're all Pro Bowlers. But Team Rice has Antonio Cromartie from the Jets, Brandon Flowers from the Chiefs, Joe Hayden from the Cleveland Browns, and Alteron Werner from the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, they made it there for a reason. But when you compare them to what Deion Sanders is bringing to the table, I'll go ahead and I got to give you the edge on that one. Now, when I'm looking at the tight ends, I don't know. I think I'm going to have to lean towards my team here with Team Rice. Team Rice is bringing to the table Tony Gonzalez from the Falcons, who, Tony, you've had a great career. Amazing tight end. Probably going to go down as the best tight end in the NFL. And I know you're retiring once the Pro Bowl is over. And again, I salute you as well. And I wish you farewell in your retirement. And I hope you enjoy life after football. And the Team Rice is also bringing Jimmy Graham from the Saints to join with Drew Brees. So they have a little connection there. You know, Jimmy Graham right now is tearing it up for the tight ends in the NFL. So we have to counter that.
You're right. Jimmy Graham is great. He's young. He's that speedster. But let's hope he comes into this Pro Bowl with his mind cleared. You know, it's supposed to be fun, and he's having a little bit of issues right now, trying to get re-signed with the Saints. He's looking for that long-term deal. But moving away from that, Jason Witten, you know, this guy's an all-time Pro Bowler. This guy is great. He goes up there amongst the greats of Antonio Gates, Tony Gonzalez, and Jordan Cameron coming in from the Browns. People have been talking highly about him this past year. As you can see, made the Pro Bowl. The guy is great. Probably the only weapon those Browns had to give them some points.
Yeah, well, don't let Josh Gordon hear you say that, because Josh Gordon made a big impact. But hey, I definitely know what you're saying. But not many weapons for them to go to. Now, Let's look at that. Let's take a look at this offensive line that Team Sanders and Team Rice built. Who does Team Rice have coming out at center?
Well, Team Sanders went with Alex Mack and our very own Mike Pouncey.
That's a good pick, and I think if I'm not mistaken, Mike Pouncey will be starting the Pro Bowl for Team Sanders.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. And to go along with him, he's got Logan Mankins from the Pats. He's got Marshall Yanda from the Ravens and Kyle Long from the Bears.
Kyle Long, for all you those that don't know out there, that's Howie Long's son, and he's a rookie this year, so that should tell you a lot of the season he's had.
Brother to Chris Long as well.
There you go.
It shows that's a tree of football players. Howie knows how to branch them out.
All right, and then, well, basically, when you mentioned the centers and the guards, because you brought in the guards in that one, Team Rice is going with Ryan Khalil, who's been doing it for a while now, and Nick Mangold. Nick Mangold is going to be the starting center for Rice.
Great vet.
Nick Mangold has been doing really well since he came in as a rookie. And then at the guards, they got, I think Drew Brees influenced Jerry Rice on this. He went with two Saints right off the bat at guards. He went with Jari Evans and Ben Grubbs, and with Evan Mathis from the Eagles. Now, at offensive tackle, this is a very important position, especially when you have to protect your quarterback. What offensive tackles did Sanders go with?
Well, Sanders, he seemed not to worry too much, even though he got some great offensive tackles. He's got Brandon Albert, Trent Williams, and Dwayne Brown. Being that it is the Pro Bowl, they try to keep the physical contact, to a minimum. So I don't know if these offensive tackles will get too much work in.
Well, we're hoping that all these players are going to live up to what they said. They're going to make this Pro Bowl a little bit more competitive, a little bit more exciting to watch. And not just wait to see almost like an all-star basketball game score where it's like 50-something to, 40-something, just nothing but throwing up the ball and getting touchdowns. But as far as the offensive tackles go for Team Rice, I'm going to have to lean to Team Rice here. They went with Jordan Gross from the Panthers, Tyron Smith, and the best left tackle in the NFL right now, Joe Thomas from the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, that Joe Thomas, that guy there is one stud. This guy's been doing it year after year since he came in. He is monstrous at his position.
He is a monster. Definitely a left tackle. Any defensive end that comes from there usually gets swallowed up. Now, where I think Team Sanders does have an advantage, but I would like to hear from you, is that defensive line.
Oh, this defensive line, like I was saying, I hope this is a very physical game, because then we're going to get to see the talents of Ndamukong Suh, Dontari Poe, and Gerald McCoy get in there against those guards and centers of Jerry Rice.
Well, if I want to be a homer, I can say that I'll pull for Team Rice's defensive line, because one of our very own Miami Dolphins are there, and that's defensive end Cameron Wake. Robert Quinn from the Rams, which is a team captain of Rice, and Cameron Jordan of the Saints as well. Obviously, Drew Brees had a hand in that. But realistically, you do have the advantage with Team Sanders at the defensive line.
Thank you. I want to thank you for pointing that out, because that is certainly true along with those corners.
Okay, and let's take a look. What about that inside linebacker, those middle linebackers? What do you got going on over there?
Well, Deion Sanders, like I said, he wasn't going to shock us when it came to defense. That's what he is, and that's what he does. He's got Luke Kuechly and Paul Posluszny coming in for his middle linebacking core.
Well, I'm not going to lie to you. I really do believe in Luke Kuechly since he came out of college, out of Boston College. This kid's been a tackling machine. I mean, nonstop. Every time you hear the Carolina Panthers, you got to talk about Luke Kuechly.
Hey, that's like listening to all the time you'd hear Brian Urlacher with the tackle. That's what you hear in Carolina every time. Is Luke Kuechly on the tackle. This guy is on every play. If he's not making the tackle, he's assisting on the tackle.
Well, and Team Rice went with a young, up-and-coming middle linebacker with Vontaze Burfict from the Bengals. If anybody watched Hard Knocks, you know who this guy is. This guy's intense. He's fast. He doesn't shy away from contact. And he wants you to bring it. He wants to hit somebody. So,
Very physical guy. And
then you bring in the veteran, Derek Johnson, who's been doing it year in and year out for the Kansas City Chiefs. Derek Johnson, there's nothing else to say about him. Derek Johnson is just an all-pro who's been doing it year in and year out.
Now, what makes it interesting is what's going to help them on the outside. You've got Tamba Hali, Brian Orakpo, and Terrell Suggs. Woo. Come on. Jerry Rice cannot compete with this linebacking core.
No, he tried, but he came up with some older gentlemen to definitely play the outside. He has John Abraham playing at outside, who plays with the Cardinals. The only young one on this list is Justin Houston with the Chiefs. And I wouldn't go as all around. He's more of a blitzing type of linebacker. And you know you can't blitz in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Rice made a good move there. And then he went with, of course, the wily old vet, Robert Mathis. Robert Mathis had one heck of a year. I cannot take anything away
That
from
guy's
him.
been holding it down for the Colts. That guy is an outstanding player.
And well, I mean, the last pretty much of the back end of that defense is the safeties. Who did Team Sanders go with at safety?
Here we are again with Sanders. He wasn't able to take Earl Thomas because he will be playing in the Super Bowl, but he was able to get Eric Berry, TJ Ward, and Eric Weddle, who are all previous Pro Bowlers.
That is a very strong safety list there. I mean, but what would you expect? Anything less from Deion Sanders? I mean, you know he was going to have the secondary taken care of. Although Jerry Rice did not go with a bad safety here. I mean, he took the turnover machine at safety in Jarius Byrd, playing for the Bills. He took Eric Reed, the rookie from the 49ers, who did nothing but create turnovers this year for the 49ers at safety. And, well, player from the U, Antrell Rowe, and who's been doing it for a few years, you know, came out as a corner out of college, but has made his living in the NFL playing safety. Not bad, but definitely, again, the back end goes to Team Sanders. I think the offense, I might lean a little bit towards Team Rice. So it should be the typical, as both players are, defense versus offense.
It looks like this Pro Bowl is going to be a preview to the Super Bowl.
And you know, hey, I'm not going to disrespect special teams players because, you know, special teams players, you know, you guys are an important part of an NFL team. And let's bring up who did they take at the special teams.
Oh, Deion Sanders was smart. He took our very own Brandon Fields, who I think deserved the Pro Bowl last year. And they got the kicker, Justin Tucker from the Ravens. And bringing back kick is going to be Cordell Peterson.
Oh man, Cordell Peterson, definitely one of the up and coming talents we saw this year from the rookie class. Has a lot of speed, has a lot of quickness.
Can definitely take it from coast to coast.
Oh yeah, when he hits a hole, he's hitting it. It's track speed time.
Yeah.
And well, as far as Team Rice, he didn't do too bad. Has definitely got one of the most efficient kickers in the league in Steven Kauskowski from the Patriots. He took punter John Hecker from the Rams. Not many people know John Hecker, but he definitely showed something this year with his net punting. And Team Rice took punt returner Dexter McCluster. Dexter McCluster is definitely
what he can do.
He's definitely a playmaker at Ole Miss a few years back. Fast, shifty, can catch the ball, but has definitely shown he can return kicks this year. Well, that's our Pro Bowl assessment. Basically, we're going to end it this way. Who do you have winning the Pro Bowl?
Like I said, I'm a defensive man. Team Sanders takes this as well.
I say Team Rice. At the end of the day, this is an exhibition game. But guys, come out there, put your best effort, give the fans what they want to see. Because me as a fan, I want to see a competitive game. How about you?
Oh, most definitely. It's football. That's what it is. The American sport. I love competitiveness, and that's why I am a defensive man. And I know these Sander players are going to come out ball hawking, looking to take the ball and score it back the other way.
Well, again, that's it for today's segment. Stay tuned for our following telecast next Sunday, February 2nd, Super Bowl Sunday. We're going to have a special show that day. We're going to do a pregame Super Bowl. We're going to do a halftime update, and we're going to do a postgame report. So please follow us again. Again, this is my co-host and my brother Michael Sanchez. And I'm your host, Anthony Sanchez. Real Talk, Real Sports. Stay tuned on next Sunday. See you guys.